control your temper. Don't be slapping the black off anyone.
That irks me more than anything else. Why can't you control yourself? But it's using your reaction to justify their own behaviours. I agree that it's a contributing factor,
So
but I'm
then why are
saying
you
that there's
arguing with
bigger
me?
things at play here.
As I've said a few times.
And as I've said a few times, I don't agree. Because
you don't
I
think
feel...
it's a contributing factor?
Reactionary abuse is something they did to me and I snapped. I'm Garcia.
I'm Izzy.
And welcome to Informally Informed. So, as I said at the top of this episode, this is about reactionary abuse. So what this is, in a sense, is it's reactive, but it's emotional entrapment, wherein someone pushes you constantly, and then when you snap, they act as though you were the person in the wrong for how you reacted.
So, when somebody in work the other day was asking me what our episode topics are, I said that this was the one that we were doing today. And when she said, "What is it?" and I explained, she went, "Huh, that just sounds like my 10-year-old kids."
But it's this, for me, I guess it's the idea that people want to hold you accountable, don't they? That's the thing these days. They want to hold you, even people you don't know, want to hold you accountable for the things that you say. But they never look at what the things that they say to get you to that point. Because I was saying this to you earlier, we were talking about our work days. And I was saying that, like, I get stressed sometimes because obviously I work in a busy environment. And sometimes I do just snap. But I don't just get there. It's based on how people have treated me or how the things that they've said. And the snapping part is how I've responded. But let's look at it in a more like homely kind of way. All right. So say you're at home with someone and they just keep doing and saying nasty things to you. Right? They're abusive. They're being assholes to you. And you sit there and you take it. You take it and you take it and you take it. And then one day, you just stand up and you're like, "Why the fuck are you talking to me like that?" And they turn to you and go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold your horses there. Why are you talking to me like that?" But they've not looked at how it is that you got there. They just see you as a mat or a doormat for which they can take out their issues on because you're not going to say nothing. They don't look at it in the sense of, how did we get here?
Fair?
Yeah, and I mean, I've been in these situations. To be fair, I feel like I'm in these situations a lot because it does take a long time for me to snap. I don't just snap. But I've had
Do you sit there and take it?
No, not anymore. But I've been in situations in which I have sat there and taken it. And then when I've snapped, it's, well, why are you talking to me like that? Why can't you control yourself? That irks me more than anything else. Why can't you control yourself? And my argument is this: if you had controlled the things that came out of your mouth, then there would have been no reason for me to react to like that in the first place. And it happens a lot in relationships. A lot of women experience reactionary abuse and they don't even know that they do.
A lot of men experience reactionary abuse.
Oh God, a lot of men. Because women, and I'm talking about womankind, seem to believe that they can talk to men any old way because they're men.
Women don't have physicality on their side.
No.
So a lot of their abuse when it comes to relationships is going to be in the form of psychological manipulation.
Yeah.
Making men feel lesser than, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's expecting them to sit there and just take it.
But it's interesting that your first thought, regardless of the type of abuse, is to, oh, well, women are the victims. When in actuality, but I think that says a lot about society. When you're first, oh, women experience that a lot.
Women do experience it a lot, but I don't mean in relationships. In relationships, they're more likely to be the perpetrators.
Absolutely.
But in general society, they're more likely to sit there and take it for fear of repercussion.
I'm not sure. Potentially, I don't know.
You've just said about physicality. In the outside, let's say you're in a bar. Bars. Let's say you're in a bar and somebody's coming up to you and they constantly, oh, you know, and they're going on about how you look, how you know, and you're not even saying anything to me. You think you're good enough, you're too good for me and stuff like that. And then when they say, why are you even talking to me? Then it's, oh, so you think you're too good for me. That's what I'm thinking of, as opposed to in relationships, men are more likely to suffer from this, I feel.
100%. Yeah.
On a day basis in life, I think men are more likely to do that. But then it's like, you know, they always talk about like men being like more likely to murder, which is true. More violent tendencies. But I don't feel that most men, and I'm not, you know, that this is a reach, by the way. I have no proof of it. But I don't feel that most men just wake up one day and say, you know what I'm going to do today? Murder my wife. It tends to be a build-up of stuff. And then when they do snap, there isn't a legal recourse for them. Not in the same way that there is women. Like, there isn't any... I should say there isn't a legal... They haven't got a leg to stand on, essentially.
I think that when it comes to reactionary abuse, women are more likely to be... if we're taking specific types of reactionary abuse out of it, so I'm not just looking at relationships, I'm not just looking at family situations, the situation of the bar, everything. Women are more likely to be both the perpetrators and the victims, because if you look at things like, you know, a lot of people say, women when it comes to like violent crime and crime in general and statistics, men are far more likely to be the victims. But when you look at things like online abuse, women are more hang on. Women are more likely to be the victims, but guess what? A lot of the people doing the stalking are other women. So when it comes to stuff like that, women are more likely to be the victims and more likely to be the perpetrators, 100%, because they'll do it to each other. They'll do it in friendship groups and all sorts of stuff. Men don't really do that.
But then it's also...
For the most part.
But it's also how you react and what it is. That's what it is how you react and what it is that you're reacting to. It's the provocation of it all. And I guess it's like, you know, when they say, oh, the silent one's always the worst. It's because you've battered down that silent person to the point that they can't be silent anymore. There's only so much anyone can take. And if you're like, women in the household are more likely to sit there and scream at their husbands. And then if your husband stands up and slaps the black off you, then you're what? Gonna be reporting them to the police. But the police don't look at how it is that they get there. They just look at the actual crime that was committed.
But at the same time, control your temper. Don't be slapping the black off anyone.
True. And it's called reactionary abuse, but it's actually a form of manipulation. There's actually a study of this. It's a form of manipulation in which you batter that person down, and then when they react, you then go, why have you done that? Or, why are you talking to me like that? And then it puts them back in that box of maybe I shouldn't have reacted, or I shouldn't have reacted that way, or, you know, or it's the conversations around why it is that you reacted that way, not why are you talking to me like I'm shit. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's the conversations around it, the manipulation. Women are more likely to manipulate, but men do it too. And they do it in a way that is it's not as studied as when women do it. But it's an awful position to be in, because if you people out there are like me, wherein you don't necessarily react in the moment, it will take a lot for that cup to run over. But when it does, prison for all of us.
So I guess the lesson would be to learn to just say what's on your mind at the time.
Yeah, but you also have to be careful of doing that, because situationally, if we're talking about physicality, women are less physical.
But we weren't talking about physicality.
No, I said if we're looking at physicality, if you react in the moment like that, and let's say you're in a position that's not necessarily in your benefit physically, so you're a dude, and okay, you're a man, right? And you're screaming.
Sure. Let's go with that for now.
And you're the one that's trying to manipulate me to do something. You're screaming, and then I say to you, why the fuck are you talking to me like that? And then you turn to me, and then you turn to me and smack me because I've reacted to you that way. You're putting yourself in a position that it's not easy to, it's not going to be easy for you to defend yourself. Let's
Sure,
say you're
but
a
a lot of the
muscly
people
dude.
that are doing a lot of the, psychological abuse are also not the same people that are doing the physical abuse.
But it's using your reaction to justify their own behaviors. That's where the problem is. It's using your reaction to excuse how it is that you got there.
Sure, but if the most of the perpetrators of reactionary abuse are women, then surely that's what we should be looking at.
But then when you look at...
And actually, when it comes to domestic violence, lesbians.
Oh yeah, lesbians are the most likely to domestically abuse their partners because it's not
And
not
the gays
seen.
are like the lowest.
Yeah.
And the men and women are like second.
Yeah, it's the lesbians. Because the
'Cause
police are
it's
less
seen as-
likely to intervene, really.
It's not even that. It's more socially acceptable.
Oh yeah, socially more acceptable. I
Just look at the way the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial was covered. Amber Heard.
Oh yeah. Of course, I forgot about that. That feels like a lifetime ago. But then you say that, but then look at what happened after the fact when all the actual facts came out, because the media spun that as Amber Heard being crazy. But then the transcript, because you followed that trial, didn't you?
I watched all of that trial live.
I didn't watch it, but then I read the transcripts, and half the things that were shown was not actually it wasn't the whole story. And when I read through some of the evidences that came up, Johnny Depp was also a crazy bastard. Like they were both doing things wrong to each other.
Not on the same level. Like, she was lying about all the stuff that he'd done.
She wasn't like, it didn't come out that she was lying about half the things that he had done. Like the shit on the bed thing. Are you talking about the shit on the bed thing?
No, I'm talking about the bit where she sat there in trial and told the entire court that he'd shoved her up the fanny with a broken bottle of glass. And this is why I need to watch the whole trial.
I read the transcripts, but I do not recall this.
All of it.
I did, but this was
like
ages. This was last year. Come on.
You read
Or 2
9
years
to
ago.
5, Monday to Friday, 8 hours per day, the entire damn thing.
No.
It was a long trial. It was a long trial. I watched the whole thing to and from work. It took me an hour to get to work every morning. On my lunch break, I watched every single person that stood and gave evidence. Right? And she said that he'd done this, but there was no evidence of her of any injuries whatsoever. And at one point she said that he'd grabbed her up the fanny and hooked her like that, and then used that to like drag her around the room and all sorts of like. Yeah, there was instances of him and when she'd abused him, like she'd thrown stuff at him and nearly took his finger off. But then they brought forward hospital records to say that this had actually happened. And they had witnesses to say, yeah, she did this. And they had one guy that said that she'd like full on slapped him around one of his bodyguards and stormed off. And then the minute she walked out of the room, Johnny turned on the bodyguard and went, see this is your fault. And he was like, and I was inclined to agree with him because I was the one supposed to be protecting him and all this kind of stuff. Like, she was fully, as far from what I can gather, in the wrong. Like, she was withdrawing his, what's it called? It's like methadone, but it's different, to get him off the drugs and stuff. Because obviously if you're on like hardcore drugs, you need something to come off it, because otherwise it puts you in not just, withdrawals, like full on like physical pain. And she was using that as a way to get him to obey. She'd like hidden all of his like drugs and stuff, and he was in pain, said I need just to get me through or whatever, because he was supposed to be on time of when he was taking it, and she wasn't giving it to him when he was supposed to have it, and she was using that as a form of manipulation. Do what I say or I'm gonna XYZ.
I guess
like there was loads of stuff that come out in that trial, and then her acting a bit. Oh my god, don't get me started. There's a reason why everybody jumped against Amber Heard.
But then after the fact, there was loads of evidence that came out that Johnny Depp did some of the stuff that he was well, to be fair, it came out in trial that he did some of the stuff that he was
like what?
They were both in an abusive relationship. They were both abusing each other.
What kind of stuff came out in the trial?
I can't recall because
I don't recall any of it, and I watched the whole thing.
But this
and I was looking for it.
But can we get back to the topic at hand, because I think we've gone off track somewhere there. This is not a quiz about what happened with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna
I know, but I'm saying
provide Evidence.
No, I'm saying to you that I don't remember half the things that happened because it was like years ago at this point. And I'm not defending Johnny Depp or Amber Heard. I'm looking at the narrative around this reactionary abuse and the gaslighting that comes from it. Because I was also going to mention, that's my next point, the gaslighting, because it is a grey area, reactionary abuse, because it's not something that you tend to hear about. I mean, prior to looking at it for these episodes, I'd never heard of it before. Had you?
Not called that, but I knew it's a thing that exists because I've had conversations about it before.
I've not, in terms of, I didn't realize that there's also a massive study that was conducted on this, and this is where the topic came back from for me.
So I remember years ago, you're talking about 10 odd years ago, a couple of people that I knew in St. Helens, it was going around that he'd hit her.
Mm.
And then I remember talking to my housemate at the time about it. I was like, I've heard, and he was like, yeah, but come on. We both know her. We know the kind of person she's like. We know that she would have pushed him to the absolute max before he reacted. And everybody's blaming him, saying he's a bad guy. But you know exactly the kind of person that she is. I was like, yeah, fair point. That's reactionary abuse. So you know it's a thing. You know it exists.
I know it existed, but I didn't know it quite in the same way. And I guess it's the fact that there's not really any legal protections from it. There isn't. There's only legal protections in terms of physical violence. There isn't really in terms of they've done this to me, therefore this is the way that I reacted. You can explain it
And you can
to
also
the police, but they're not going to take it into account because the gaslighting around that as well, the feelings of guilt, the trauma that can come from it.
I would also argue that it's incredibly subjective anyway.
Mm.
Say I came round to your house and you said that you'd cleaned up, you'd done cleaning. I was like, yeah, but I do still think this space is a little bit cluttered or whatever. And then the next time you come around, what do you think? Oh, I still think it's a little bit cluttered, right? You can then turn around. You have no idea. You don't understand. She's traumatized me. Every time I come in here, she tells me what a shithole this place is. I just couldn't take it anymore.
But trauma's subjective anyway.
Exactly. And that's why it becomes hard to plead. Because you could ask me, like, I could have some random person that I become good friends with asking me regularly, does my bum look big in this? And I could be, well, maybe, or whatever the case. I'm not going to lie to her if she asks me a question. Next thing I know, she's abusing me because she tells me I'm fat all the time. There's got to be some level of, like, how do you police something like that?
But like that's what I said, it's a grey area. It really is, because it's so subjective. But then again, so is trauma, but we police that to an extent. That's also subjective. But we managed to find a way around it. And I mean, as you know, I think we have too much government interference in this country anyway. So I would never be calling for more interference in anything. But I do think that we need to look more closely at the trauma that comes from that. Because obviously I work in mental health and I have to deal with these people. And I don't want to have to deal with these people. That's what it comes down to. Because how do you say to someone, well, that doesn't sound abusive to me. That sounds like you're a bit overly sensitive.
But sometimes people are just overly sensitive. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
But if you're traumatized by it or it's caused some undue stress to you, then, you're going to have repercussions to that mentally.
Do you know what we should be teaching people?
What?
Mental resilience, mental toughness.
Do you think that people are less...
Yes.
I do think that people are less mentally resilient, which is the end of my sentence now. But then, why? Why do you think that's the case?
I think people are wrapped in cotton wool a lot of the time.
But the world is not, and the world is not an easy place, and it remains not an easy place. So how are they more wrapped in cotton wool? Because even if you do so in hold it. Even if you're wrapped in cotton wool in your circle or in your home, once you leave that, you can't then control how people treat you.
And that's how people end up with less mental resilience because of the way they're brought up. First of all, life is far easier today than it was in past.
Actually, that's not true. There was a study that I was looking up for. Was a different.
Was it a subjective poll?
No, it wasn't. It was an actual academic study. I saw this when I was. What was I looking up? it was one of our upcoming episodes, or by the time you see this, maybe a previous episode on the assisted dying bill. And they were saying that people are less mentally resilient, and they did an academic study. Oxford University did an academic study on this, and it showed that actually the world hasn't gotten easier. It's actually gotten harder.
How?
Because of technology. Because you're more accessible now than you ever have been. So people have to deal with more things now than they ever have had to. People are more, but then it's also making them more mentally fragile.
I mean, you can't. Yeah, exactly. That is the thing. It's making them more mentally fragile. Cannot expect me to believe.
I mean, I'll send you the study.
That a Generation Z person has had a harder life than people born in the 1930s in London. I'm not buying it.
It's subjective, but well, no, actually,
but literal bombs dropping on your head.
Studies, but then say that to the people of Gaza.
We're talking about the UK.
Okay.
Right, but the people that are not mentally resilient aren't having bombs dropped on them. That's what I'm saying. I would imagine that the people living in Gaza are probably a lot more mentally resilient than a lot of people in this country.
The people in this country, because obviously we're in the UK, we like this brings me to I've made this point in videos before, but I feel like we should be scrapping the welfare state and go back to a time where people weren't just given pass grades in academia, because a lot of people, is it this country or America wherein the literacy rates have gone right down. People can't read or write, yet they can't get jobs for it, but they'll be given money anyway.
But this is the thing, right? So people today are brought up in a society where a lot of the parents tell them that they're special. You hear it all the time. Every child is special. They can have things in life just because they want it. You know, there's participation medals. Get medals for coming in last.
I've never heard of like in all my time, right? I've never seen an actual participation medal.
We had them in school.
Did you? Yeah. I didn't have them in school, so I've never actually seen. I hear people say it all the time, as a point, but I've never seen this.
I've seen them. And then, you know, a lot of them don't try that hard. A lot of the parents are complaining to the teachers about not getting good grades and stuff and all this kind of stuff. They don't really have to work for anything in life. A lot of them aren't given chores as kids. And then they get to 21 or 18 or whatever it is. They get thrust into the real world. They're realising that they're not special. Their mothers can't get them a promotion. You get nothing for coming in last. And in an instant, and then the people aren't just nicety all the time. And the people aren't going to warn you not to go out on your bike in case you go over and graze your knee. There are no safety nets. But and in that instance, their entire self-image is shattered. So they're growing up with less more insecure than previous generations.
But then people actually spend less time in their homes than they do at school. So when I hear it about what the parents are doing, I'm like, well, what's happening in the school situation? Because you're there for like, how long's a school day? Like 8 hours?
Exactly. And the school doesn't want to do anything. It's going to wrap these kids in cotton wool because if anything happens, sues.
Yeah, but you're also there with other kids who do not live in your household, who are not going to be the ones that you're still mixing with people. So when I hear it about like their levels of resilience, I do agree that their levels of resilience are not where they should be, but I just find it difficult to believe that it's solely through like parentage.
I'm not saying it's solely through parentage. I'm saying it's one of the reasons.
I just feel like even in the real world, you do mix with people, no matter what age you are. You do mix with people, and like
it's not all just about mixing with people, though.
But it is about mixing with people because that's what we do in society. We mix with people. People are not islands.
You're not getting a job when you're 10. You're not doing. There's
no, you're not. But you are still mixing
adult.
with people. You go to, let's say you're 10. Let's say you're a typical middle class. What even is the middle class now? But let's say you're a typical 10-year-old in the middle class. You're gonna go to guides.
And that argument would make sense if all breakdowns of mental resilience came from I had a conversation with somebody else and I mixed with this person. But it's more than that. It comes with everything of being an adult. It comes with the job. It comes with having to feed yourself. All of these things you have to do as a child that you do have to do as an adult. So when I'm talking about people are less mentally resilient, I don't just mean in terms of somebody said a hurty word to me. There's other things at play.
Of course there is, but in a sense that even when you hit 18, 16, whatever it is, because it's like 16 here, you are able to go to the doctors on your own. You're able to do things on your own. You're still going to be in a world where not everybody is able to just be at home until they're 18. People still... I'm saying that in terms of mixing with people, you are still mixing with people in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying hurty words. I'm saying like, I'm not saying not to you hurty words. I'm saying it's not just hurty words. It's in terms of, no, they're not getting jobs, but they are doing activities. No, they're not having to feed themselves, but some people are. I mean, what this country is going through the highest levels of child poverty for the last 50 years. So some people are having to feed themselves. So I'm looking at what you just said there in terms of like their mental resilience and how we get there. And I'm like, but those things are happening. So it's not in a case.
Some people having to feed themselves, but as a general rule and a general thing, when you hit a certain age, you're expected to do a lot of things, and wrapping people in cotton wool and not giving them preparation for what to expect out in the real world is what's leading to a lack of mental resilience. That's all I'm saying.
And I think I'm disagreeing with you.
But you haven't provided me any reason as to why you haven't. I'm saying it's one. I'm not saying it's the only reason. I'm saying it's one of the contributing reasons. And you saying, but people, they have to mix with you
because I don't think that people are being wrapped in cotton wool, not in the age of technology. I think that they're seeing and dealing with more than they've had to deal with previously. Maybe not in the same sense that it's everywhere around you, but in terms of like the internet, because everybody's on the internet now, they're having to deal with more. I mean, I'm dealing with like, well, I'm not currently dealing with them, but let's say kids who have had to deal with social like things, stuff.
Yes, but in terms of other things, people are far less likely in today's society to report knowing about their finances. And you know, ask an 18-year-old today what a tax return is or mortgage, they're far less likely to be able to tell you than they would be a while back.
I mean, at 18, could you tell people what a tax return was?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't.
Okay.
But I don't think that makes me less mentally resilient.
There's things that aren't being taught to young people that are unpreparing them for the world out there.
But 20, 30 years ago, it was still not being taught to prepare them for the world out there.
It's never been taught in schools. But it is being taught. I mean, people are still... And again, this whole thing with social media, the algorithms are fixed to a particular individual. But so you can't say, well, the internet's there and therefore people know.
But then I'm also looking at it as, look at the pandemic that happened, right? More and more families are where both parents are outside the home and having to work. When, where, and how are they supposed to teach their kids these things? It's not like back 50 years where there was a parent in the home who would teach them these things. So I'm like, if they don't know it through the home, then it's not being taught in schools. But that doesn't alter
the fact that they still don't know it, which is adding to a lack of mental resilience.
I don't think it's adding to a lack of mental resilience.
I've been a radiographer for 15 years. I have seen the quality. I worked at, I mean, the hospital I work in now is adult only, but my previous hospital was children. I've seen over the course of my career, including my years as a student, all the way up through, the parents coming in now with more ridiculous things compared to my mother told me to walk it off and stop being such a big baby, right? People kids, I know it's not a nice thing to do, but parents not wanting to hold their kid down for an x-ray, kids controlling the conversation in a room. That never used to be the case. When I first started, the parents would go, no, sit, and they just do it. Like, I've seen over the course of my career, parents less in control of their kids. But
I've seen over the course of my career, children not having to deal with more and more stuff.
I'm not saying that your point is wrong.
I'm not saying that your point is wrong.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that I disagree. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong.
What do
I
you
just
disagree
with the fact that it's within the home. I'm saying that there's far more in society.
So you are disagreeing?
I am disagreeing, but that doesn't mean that your point is wrong. I'm saying that I disagree with how you've said it in terms of...
But my point is, it's happening inside the home, and because the example I used with parents, right? And you're saying, I can gather, but you're saying it's not happening in the home, therefore you think my point is wrong. I'm simply saying it's a contributing factor.
I agree that it's a contributing factor,
So
but
then
I'm
why are
saying
you
that there's
arguing with
bigger
me?
things at play here, because even in terms of the home, there are less likely to have any parental oversight because their parents are just not there to teach them this stuff. They're not there. So where are they getting their lessons from? They're getting it from the school. They're getting it from their activities that they're doing. So in terms of the things that they should be taught, like mortgage stuff and all the rest of it, there is just no one there to teach it to them. So let's say 20 years ago, I also didn't know that, but also I was in a better position wherein I did have parents in the home who also worked, but were not working as much as parents now just to make ends meet. That's where I'm at.
So you don't think parents are more softly now?
I don't
Because
think
I've
that
seen that. I've seen that.
I don't think that they're more softy now. I think that there are things that they can't do now that they used to be able to do, which might make it seem as though they're more softy, but they're just falling within the law.
No, I don't agree. My mother never once hit me. Most parents in my I can't speak to that. But just because it was there were other ways to discipline your children, and children are not being disciplined on the same level because I see it
But I
compared to what it was when I first started. I'm not saying it's the only factor. I'm not saying you're wrong. But I get the impression that you're saying that I'm wrong.
But I just said to you, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying that I just don't.
You're saying it's not happening in the home.
I'm saying that their parents aren't actually there to teach them anything.
So you're saying it's not happening in the home?
I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm saying, because in terms of like older siblings and all the rest of it, these days, a lot of people are just not even having kids anyway because they simply can't afford to. So they can't be there to teach them anything because they're not there.
So you don't think it's happening inside the home?
I don't think it's happening to the extent in which that you're saying it's happening inside the home.
What extent am I saying is happening inside the home?
Because if you're saying that it's all coming from the home, then I don't agree.
Let me say the same thing that I've said 3 times. Is a contributing factor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's all happening inside the home. I'm saying it's a contributing factor.
Okay.
As I've said 3 times.
And as I've said a few times, I don't agree because
you don't think it's a contributing factor?
I don't think it's contributing in the same way that you think it's contributing, because the parents are not there to teach them anything. So they're not there to bolster any resilience. They're not there to bolster any resilience. The schools can't do it. Or provide the type of discipline that or oversight, let's say you and I had. Then they're just not there. So in terms of where we're at now, it's not that parents don't want to discipline their kids or anything like that. It's that they're not there. They're not there. They're not as involved with their kids as they once were.
And therein lies the problem.
I agree. But I also feel
so
like
it is the parents.
But I also feel like the effects on schools, that the effect of the school having to step into that parent role is causing less of a resilience. Because 30 kids to a classroom, how can that teacher then teach them any kind of mental resilience?
How would one even go about teaching mental resilience?
Well, they used to have PSHE. I don't know if they still have that.
What's that?
It was like a something social education, so some sort of social education. I don't know what the P stands for. Basically, it was just to teach you life skills, things like opening a bank account.
Oh yeah, they should bring back that.
Yeah, they should bring that back.
They should bring back financial education,
because I think that those things missing in the system now. That's what I mean in terms of government interference. They've taken out a lot of the things that were in the system that were designed to pick up where parents faltered. They've taken them all out. So now these kids are just graduating with no concept of anything that's happening in the real world. But that doesn't mean that they don't encounter it in earlier life.
Which
like if you
leads to mental resilience. People are not encountering things.
They're not encountering it.
Yeah.
And also people are less likely to leave the areas that they live in. Because, I mean, down the road from where I live is PAR. It's a lower income area. Well, it's supposed to be a lower income area, but these days everybody works. It's supposed to be a lower income area. I know a family whose grandparents never worked, their parents never worked, they don't work, but those parents are always in the home, and those kids are more mentally resilient than kids whose parents do work, because they've had to go and figure it out, because they don't want to get traditional jobs, they haven't got the education to do so. And so they're figuring it out. People with higher incomes than them. They're not there to teach them anything.
And I think a lot of it comes down to culture as well. People
Oh,
are
definitely
taught
culture.
to get offended by everything.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. I do think that culture plays a massive part in things. I mean, I'm Caribbean. I'm Jamaican. I have never in my life spoken back to my parents in in a disrespectful way. Even when they piss me off, I would never do that because it's not within me to do that because I was taught never to do that. Whilst in my professional life, I do hear the way that some of these kids talk to their parents, and I'm like, the swift backhand would fix that, but you can't do that under the law. I feel like government has led to this. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Yeah, let's wrap this up.
So what was reactionary abuse led to Johnny Depp and mental resilience?
Reactionary abuse is a grey area that can sometimes lead to trauma, gaslighting, and if you have lower mental resilience, you're more likely to fall for it. But also at the same time, I think that everybody could be a victim of it because there's only so much you can take.
And sometimes people just need to be told to man the fuck up, as far as I'm concerned.
And also, I feel like a swift box to the mouth, pow, would fix that. People talking to you crazy, you don't like it, just smack this shit out. No, I'm joking. I'm not actually advocating for violence. I have to say that.
You have to say that for legal reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, until next time.
Let us know what you think, if there's anything you've got to add. And what are your thoughts on the big debate that wasn't supposed to happen this evening? I mean, I know everybody listening thinks I'm right.
No. I think people can see the nuance in my argument, but go on.
All I was saying, that it was one contributing
We're
factor,
going down this road. We're not going down this road again. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me, although you secretly know, mate. See you in the next one, guys.
Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our views. That's the point of the conversation. Join in.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.